217. Now Miranda knows how to do this one. Okay, so the way you answer these is you write them in Blue Jay and then upload the files, just like you would to me.
Oh, okay.
All right, so I didn't do them on I didn't have my computer. So you have two classes that you need to write. Okay, one is the item to purchase class. So let's do that one first. Item to purchase. Okay. And what you're going to do is then, just like you upload them for me, you're going to upload them here. Okay, wipe everything out. And then it tells you what to do. All right, so the item to purchase class has some instance fields. Three private fields, a string item name, initializing the default constructor to none, an int item price, and an int item quantity. So, instance fields, private, string, item name. Now, when you're doing an instance field, you don't initialize it. That happens in the constructor. Int item price. Private. And then private int item quantity.
If you don't type private, it's not public.
No, it becomes public. And you don't want it to become public because then you can just touch it from other, like your main method could just directly touch it, or other programs could directly access it. And you don't want to give them that. You want to protect them. They have to call your method to mess with your field. All right, so a default constructor. Remember, a default constructor has no parameters and has the class name. So public item to purchase, no parameters, and I need to initialize my instance fields. So item name equals the word none, the string none. Item price equals what value? All right, 0 is what it said. And item quantity equals 0 as well. There's my default constructor. Now, public member methods, mutators and accessors, a set name and get name, a set price and get price, a set quantity and a get quantity. Well, public setters are void, getters are the type of the item you're coming back. So public void set name. Now I need a parameter, don't I? What kind of parameter do I need? I need to give this item a name. What is the name, the item name instance field? What is that type? That's what it's called, but what is its type? What type of variable is it? What does it say up here? What is the type? A string. So my parameter, if I'm going to change that name, string a name. I can't spell. String a name. I'm just going to say item name equals my variable, my parameter, a name. That's it. Public something, get name, no parameters, return the item name so I can print it or do other things with it. Now, return ones need a return type. The return type has to exactly match what you're returning. What are we returning? What does it say we're returning? If you were to read the code on the screen, it says return what? No. What did you just type? Return what? Return item name. What is the type of item name? It's a string. So the return type for this method has to be the same thing. So the computer knows how much space and how to handle this thing. So your return type always has to match what you're returning. Okay? Now I have to write four more methods. I have to write set price and set quantity, get price, get quantity. So what do you think the method for set price is going to look like? It's probably going to look very much like set name, except what is my parameter type going to be? An integer, because I'm changing an integer. So public void set price int, call it whatever you want, but make it useful, int a price. And then I override my item price field equals my parameter that I just wrote in there. right? Programming is all about breaking down your problem into very small steps. Most of your methods, even when we get near the end of the year, 5, 6 lines long. If it's any bigger than that, you probably should break it up into 2 pieces, and then call them in other places. You only want to write little pieces of code. Now, public, what is the return type of get price? An int, because I'm returning an int. Get price, no parameters. What do I return? Return the number stored in the item price field. Now, what's the last 2 that I have to write? The quantity. So let's write those. So public void set quantity with a parameter int a quantity or whatever. Item quantity equals a quantity. Public int get quantity, no parameters. Return item quantity. Am I done? Build the item to purchase class. Have I handled everything it said I needed in there? Yeah. All right. So now I have to write the main method. So I'm going to compile this just to make sure there's no errors. There's nothing worse than writing a lot of program and compiling it and then getting a mistake. So we should have compiled like halfway through, but whatever. No errors. Okay. So now I make a new class, and it's my shopping cart printer. Okay. Shopping cart printer contains my main method. So what's the first thing I have to write here? Public static void main string args. Open it up. All right. So let's scroll down in the problem. It says, in main, prompt the user for 2 items. Create 2 objects of the item to purchase class. Before prompting for the second one, call screen scanner next line to allow the user to input a new string. So it's supposed to look like this. So from previous examples that we've done, how do we create a scanner to get input from the user? Got to make an object of the scanner class. Now they say SCNR, doesn't matter what you call it. I like to call them in. You can call them whatever you want. Scanner in equals a new scanner, and you have to give it a parameter of where this information is coming from. In this case, system in means the keyboard. I could have it open a file or a URL or something. All right, we've made an object of the scanner class. System out print ln item 1. That looks like the first thing it requires, right? Right here it says item 1. Okay. Then enter the item name. So system out print, not an ln because I want my cursor to stay on the same line. Enter the item name, :space, quotes. Now the user's going to type something like chocolate chips. What do I do with that?
You have to set it so it prints it.
I have to save it.
Yeah.
I printed the word. Now they're going to type something. I have to save it. Now, they are printing a what? What type of thing are they printing? Are they printing numbers, words? What are they printing for the first thing?
First thing is words.
Right, because it's a name. And our name field is what type? Or words are what type? String. So you should make a string variable. String, we're just going to call it name, equals, in my case, in.nextLine, which gets everything they typed, including spaces, until they hit enter.
So they cannot type in any numbers.
They can, but they're going to get saved as a string, so I couldn't use them for math.
Oh, okay. So that product name is just gonna be a number. Right?
It could. If you typed in 3, the product's name is now 3. But it's a string 3, so I couldn't do any math on it. So, but next line tells the computer whatever they type, store it as a string. Okay. Then what's the next thing? System out print, enter the item price. Now, we want the price to come in as what type? An integer. So int price equals in dot next int. Tell the computer whatever they type, got to be a number, and store it as a number. All right. System out. What I'm going to do next? Print. Enter the item quantity. And what do you think I'm going to type here?
Same thing as
Int quantity equals, this is a number again, right? So what do I write? What's the method? Next int, right? Give me an integer. Now I have three variables. I have name, price, and quantity. Now I have to store those and make an object of my item to purchase class. So how do I make an item to purchase class object? Class name. What are we going to call it? Let's call it item 1. Equals, what's the phrase for making a new object? New, and then the constructor. Item to purchase. Okay. Now,
I mean, you're getting the numbers from the other.
what does this line mean?
Yeah, you're
I'm creating the computer's memory a copy of, wherever I put it, here, of this. So it's going to go in and it's going to make me some instance fields, 3 instance fields. It's going to give it a name. It's going to point to it wherever it put it in the computer. So now I have one of these floating around the computer. Okay?
I compiled it and it says that it can't find the class scanner.
Ah, can't find scanner, because now would be a good time to compile before we get too far. Mine says it reached the end of file while parsing, which means I need another semicolon. You notice this is green and this is yellow. Now if I compile, I'm going to get the same error. What does that error mean?
That's the Java thing on top of it.
I need to import the scanner because the scanner class does not automatically come with the basic Java. I have to go tell it, all right, go find the scanner library. Now, I have a item 1 object items to purchase of the item to purchase class. Once I use my default constructor, what were the values of name, price, and quantity? Those are my parameters, but I haven't called for them yet. When I first just make it and I call it constructor, what did we set these values to be? None, 0, and 0. So now I have to use these set methods, right? To actually use the values, whoops, and not delete. So now I need to say item 1 dot set name, and what's the parameter I need to give it? The name field right here that we just saved, right? And then it's going to call find set name, and it's going to override the item name. Item 1 set price. What goes in here? Price. Item 1 dot set quantity. What goes in here? Quantity. Now I have made this. All right. I need to do this twice. Because I need to make another item, right? But this needs to be what? Item 2. Now, the other thing is once I already define an item or a variable, I don't redefine it. I just reuse it. And this becomes item 2. And I just have to change all of these to item 2 method calls, right?
So I can take out that int quantity and string name thing.
Right. You take out the parameter type because it's going to tell you it's already defined. So once I say string name, I just call name after that. I don't re-say it's a new variable. All right, let's compile. Supposedly no syntax errors. No, let's run it and see what we got so far. So now I have a compiled shopping cart printer which has a dotted line indicating it makes objects of the item to purchase class. Void main, let's run it. Enter the item name. Blah. What's the price? 2, and I have 3 blahs. Item 2, enter the item name. Enter the item price. This did it to her too. Why is it, and I'm not sure why it's doing that. All right, so let's go back here and kill the window.
Oh, mine did all 3 instead of just 2.
Interesting. Give me that. Right click on this, reset the virtual machine. In main, prompt the user for 2 items. Before prompting for the second item, call scanner next line to allow the user to input a new string. It sounds really weird, but let's see if it fixes the problem. Before prompting for the second item, call in dot next line. Maybe there might be an enter or something that we have to like sort of eat before we can run it twice. I don't know. Let's find out. Item 1, blah, 2, 3. No.
You compile that last one, or does it matter?
I did compile it. Enter the item. Well, that's weird. But we can, well, I don't know why it's doing that. So let's completely reset everything. So here, let's say scanner into equals new. Let's reset everything and see if that fixes our problem. Oops, that goes here. So then we're going to say into, I'm not sure why it wouldn't be resetting itself properly. New scanner system.in, close, run it. Blah, 3, 4, there we go. That worked. Blah, 2, 3. All right. So instead of resetting, just make a new scanner. That's the simplest way to fix that problem. Now we've got 2 objects, but what do we have to do now? What's this bit here? In our shopping cart printer, we now need to complete this output. Okay. So obviously the first one is just easy. That's a system out println in quotes total cost, right? And that's pretty easy to do. And then what do I print? I print the name of the first item. I print the quantity of the first item. I print a ampersand, or no, an at symbol, not ampersand, an at symbol. I print a space. I print a $sign. I print the price, and then I do the math and see what it actually is. So I'm going to split these up a little bit. I'm going to say int item 1 price, or item 1 total, equals item 1 dot get price times what? How much is my total cost? You guys are way overthinking this. How much is a Gibson grinder?
The set price plus set price, or item 1.
Not plus. How much is a Gibson grinder?
Never bought one.
What do you eat at the Po?
Bacon, egg, and cheese.
How much is that?
$3.
$3. If I buy 5 of them, how much does it cost? How'd you get that math?
Multiplied them.
You multiply the price times the quantity, right?
Yeah.
So I take my price and I have to get item 1 dot get quantity, right? I call the method. I'm going to make this bigger so you can see it, right? I'm going to save that as the total cost of item 1 is the price of each one times the quantity, but I use my getter, my accessor method to get the value for me, right? Now I need to output it so it looks like this. So system out println in quotes, well, not in quotes, right? It's just the item 1 dot get name, right? Plus what? It looks like a space, right? a space and then the quantity, right? So here's what I'm actually going to do. Actually, no, we'll do this. To make it easier to read, here's what we're going to do. You said, so it's plus a space plus the item quantity, right? Quantity. Now watch this. Plus, what was next? The computer just reads this as one giant command, but I can split it up to make it easier for me to see. So after the 1, then a space at space $sign, right? Plus space at space $sign. And then what comes after the $sign? The item price, right? So quotes plus item1 dot get price, right? Am I done yet? After I print the price, I print a space =, space $sign, and then the total. So plus quotes space equals space $sign end quotes plus item1 dot, or not item, now we already did the math up here, right? So I could just add the item1 total variable in here, close my quotes, and put a semicolon. That's one big print. Now what do I do for the next one?
Do item 2.
I just copy all of this, and I put it down here. Except I change this to item 2, item 2, get price, item 2, get quantity, item 2, get name, item 1. Now this is dangerous. What should we have done before we just copied and pasted probably? Probably should have compiled to make sure we don't copy and paste an error. But I trust myself. So that gets me where? That gets me to here, right?
Then you need the total of both.
Well, I need what? Looks like one or two spaces. That I'm not sure of. So we can just do a system out.println, an empty print line. That, and then we'll see if that looks good. Then system out println, what? The word total, colon, space, $sign, right?
Yep.
Plus what? Well, we made these nice variables, so we can just use them again. Plus item 1 total, plus item 2 total. Now, what do we need to put these inside parentheses, because what happens when you add, what we're doing here is called concatenation. I'm going to take a string, I'm going to add something to the end of it. But as soon as you do that, it turns them into strings. And you can't do math on strings. So you need to use the parentheses to do order of operations, which says add this integer to this integer, turn that whole answer into a string, add it to that, and then print the whole string. All right.
It says it can't find quantity for it.
So if it says it can't find a method get quantity, is that what it says?
Oh, I think I might have put item instead of get.
So this is the method get quantity, right?
No, the line after that.
This one here?
Yeah, I just put item quantity instead of.
Yeah, you got to have the method get, right? You can't touch that instance field, so you have to do the get quantity. All right, so let's compile, no errors. Let's see if it runs. So now we're going to do it for real. Enter the item name, chocolate chips. Now, you want to test something. Here you know the answer, right? It gave you what the answer should be. So we might as well just copy this and see if it works. So 3, 1, enter the item name, bottled water. Now what's the one thing we're missing here? We need it wants a space. So we need to go add a system out print in here. Enter the item name, bottled water, enter the price, 1, and the quantity is 10, hit enter. Chips 1 at $3 equals 3. Bottled water 10 at $1 each equals 10. Total equals 13. Looks pretty good. Now again, if you write this and you get an error because they wanted 2 spaces and you only put 1 in there, just send me a screenshot. I'll fix I'll credit you that point. That's not a big deal. But we should have a space between item 1 and item 2. So we're just going to go into our cart printer, and between our item 1 and our item 2, we're just going to do system out.println, an empty print line, and then that will format everything beautifully.
My name and price are still next to each other.
What?
For item 2, it's still next to each other.
Did you include this new line of making an entirely new scanner just to reset everything?
Scanner in 2.
Yeah. So the idea, to just make a new scanner. Now, the other thing that you could be is it shouldn't be doing that.
Should I just bring it to you?
Yeah, so everybody understand what's going on in this one?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll stop recording and then we'll solve that problem.